In the name of Allah, the most gracious and the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum to all. Welcome to Virtual Learning System of Pakistan International School Time. Dear students, today we are going to revise chapter number 7, 8, and 12. So first of all, we revise unit number 7, pollination and fertilization. Dear students, you know that the pollination is a process of transfer of pollen grain from anther to stigma is known as pollination. A flower is the most beautiful and brightest part of a plant. The flower helps the plant to make copies of itself. Flowers may look different from each other, but they all have the same parts. See, the first one is petals. The petals are the most beautiful part of a flower. They are brightly colored to attract insects and birds to the flower. Petals, these are leaf-like green structure and are attached to the base of flower. The sepals protect the flower when it was a young bud. All the sepals together are called calyx. After that one, this one called style. It is a long hollow tube that connects the stigma to the ovary. Then this part of the flower called stigma. The tip of the carpel is called the stigma. It is a sticky and traps the pollen grain. After that one called ovary. This is a female reproductive organs of the plant. After fertilization, the ovary become the fruits and ovule become the seed. This one called the pistil and carpel. This is the female part of the plant. That one is the female part of the plant. This one called anther. That yellow dotted structure called anther. This one called pollen tube. That one called filament. So stamen is the male part of the flower. It consists of anther and filament. This one is the male part of the flower. That one consists anther and filament. This one is the female part of the flower. Style, stigma, and ovary. Then petals and sepal. This is the structure of flower. After here you see in pollination, this one called pollen. This is the anther, filament, sepal. That one called petals. This one is stigma, style, ovary. Female part of the plant called carpel. Male part of the plant called stamen. I hope you understand the structure of flower. Pollination. In pollination, the transfer of pollen grain, transfer of pollen grain from anther to stigma. This is the female part of a flower. This is the male part of a flower. The transfer of pollen grain from anther to stigma is called pollination. The structure of flower. Here they show you the transfer of pollen grain. This one is the pollen grain from anther to stigma. See in the flower, here is a stigma. Again, here you see in pollination, that one show you the pollen grain. This is the pollen grain. Then pollen, this one called stick to the leg of the insects or bees. That one called the pollinators. This one is a pollen grain. They transfer from anther to stigma. This is called stigma. Then This one is called seed. This part of the flower called ovary. In self-pollination, the pollination of a flower by pollen grain, pollen from the same flower or from another flower on the same plant. It is called self-pollination. The pollination of a flower by pollen grain from the same flower or from another flower on the same plant. It is called self-pollination. See, in self-pollination, transfer of pollen grain from anther to stigma of the same flower. See, transfer of pollen grain from anther to stigma of the same flower. This one is anther, this part of the flower called stigma, and this dot-like structure called pollen grain. Anther, stigma, pollen grain. So transfer of pollen grain from anther to stigma of the same flower, it is called self-pollination. I hope you understand. Cross-pollination. In cross-pollination occur when pollen grain are transferred to a flower from a different plant. See here, transfer of pollen grain to a flower or from a different plant. So that one called cross-pollination. Cross-pollination occur when pollen grains are transferred to a flower from a different plant. It is called cross-pollination. See, transfer of pollen grain from an other flower. Cross-pollination. See, when two different parts of other flower, this process called cross-pollination. Transfer of pollen grain from anther to stigma of an other flower. The pollen grain of a flower falls onto the stigma of another flower. It is called cross-pollination. And if the pollen of a flower falls onto the stigma of the same flower, it is called self-pollination. And if the pollen grains of a flower fall onto the stigma of another flower, it is called cross-pollination. Here is the transfer of pollen grain from another flower. So that one show you the cross-pollination. Pollination agents. Which agents involved in pollination? Wind, water, bird, insects like butterfly and bat also. So these are the agents of pollination. These are involved in pollination. Which one are involved? Wind, water, bird, insects and bat. See, here insects or butterfly are involved in pollination. How the fertilization in plant? See, when the pollen grain mature, they escape after. What happens? See, first, when the pollen grain has reached the stigma, it forms a tube inside the style. This tube is known as pollen tube. See, when it reaches to the stigma, they make the long hollow tube. This is called pollen tube, and it reached the, see this pollen, after it reached to the ovary, and in the pollen tube the male cells of the flower which were enclosed in the pollen grain move downward to the ovary, and they reach the ovary and join the ovule. See, they reach the ovary and join the ovule. See, when the pollen grain has reached the stigma, it forms a tube inside the style called the pollen tube. After they reach the ovary and join the ovule. When the pollen grain is mature, they escape and reach on the stigma of the flower by pollination. After the pollen tube grows and enters the ovule through the micropyle. And the pollen tube enters into the cavity of the ovary and then the ovule join. This is the process of fertilization in plant. And finally, they make the seed. So in the last, the ovary begins to change in the fruit. I hope you understand. So now revise the exercise, match column A with column B. The falling of the pollen grains onto the stigma of the same flower, it is called self-pollination. The process by which male cell combine with the female cell, it is called fertilization. A collective name for the female organs of a flower called carpel. A sweet juice produced by some flower to attract pollinator, it is called nectar. A collective name for the male organs of a flower called stamen, and the falling of pollen grain onto the stigma of another flower, it is called cross-pollination. This is your exercise number A. Exercise B, fill in the blanks. The transfer of pollen grain from anther to stigma is known as pollination. The leaf-like structure at the base of a flower which protect the flower when it is in bud are called sepals. The top part of the pistil, which is sticky and traps the pollen, it is called stigma. The long hollow tube in a flower structure that connects the stigma to the ovary is called style. All the sepals in a flower are collectively known as calyx. The plants that have bright flower are pollinated by insects. Bright and scented flower are pollinated by insects. The structure at the top of the filament which contains pollen grain is called anther. The flowers that do not have nectar are pollinated by wind. I hope you understand. So let's start next chapter. Unit number 12, circuits and switches. After the unit number 12, we will revise mixture and solution, okay? So in circuit, electricity can only flow if there is a complete circuit. It travels from a power source like battery or cell, flowing around the circuits through the components, then back to the power source. In complete circuit, the components, cell, wire, and bulb are all connected without any gap, so the bulb light. But in broken circuit, there is a gap in the circuit. The electricity cannot flow all the way round, so the bulb does not light up. So this image show you the complete circuit, and that one show you the incomplete. Here is no gap, but there is a gap. We have two types of circuits, series circuits and parallel circuits. One pathway circuits, and here parallel two or more pathways. Current flow of electric charge is same anywhere in the circuit. Current splits passes through pathways and add up again. Voltage, measure of strength of electrical power shared in a ratio to resistance. But voltage across each pathway equals supply voltage. I hope you understand. In series circuit, again here you see the complete path along which electricity flowed. This is called circuit. And electricity, there is no gap, we call complete circuit, but there is a gap, we say incomplete circuit. That one show you the series circuit, that one show you the parallel circuit. In series circuits, appliances like light bulb are connected one after another. See, one after another. But in parallel circuit, the appliances or light bulbs are connected in a line like this. So there is a current divided into two or more paths before going back to the battery or the source of electricity. What is a conductor? Conductor, any material that allow electric current to pass through it, it is called conductor, like copper, aluminum, steel, or any metal. Conductor, if a material allow electricity to pass through, it is called conductor, like copper, aluminum, and steel. Insulator, any material that does not allow electric current to pass through it, it is called insulator, like plastic, rubber, glass, cloth. So insulator, the material which does not allow electricity to pass through, it is called insulator. And the material which allow electricity to pass through, it is called conductor. Okay, now we are going to revise exercise. Column A contains definition of the term and column B contains all these terms. So match column A with column B. The complete path along which electricity flows, it is called circuit. A device or connection used to turn on and off electrical appliances, it is called switch. The material which allow electricity to pass through, it is called conductor. The material which does not allow electricity to pass through, it is called insulator. This is your exercise number A. Exercise number B, electricity which flow through a material, it is called electric current. A complete path for electricity to flow, it is called circuit. If there is a gap or break in the circuit, it is called incomplete circuit. And if there is no gap or break in the circuit, it is called complete circuit. The device which is used to turn on and off electrical appliances, it is called switch. In a diode circuit, the appliances are connected in a line one after another. It is called series circuit. In a diode circuit, the current flow into different branches or path. It is called parallel circuit. The substance which allow electricity to pass through, it is called conductor. And the substance which does not allow electricity to pass through, it is called insulator. I hope you understand this exercise. The next one is choose the correct answer. The material which allow electricity to pass through them are called conductor. And the material which do not allow electricity to pass through, it is called insulator. Which of the following is an example of insulator? Rubber. Which of the following is an example of conductor? Copper. Which of the following is an example of main powered appliances? It is called refrigerator. Refrigerator is an example of main powered appliance. And which of the following is an example of battery? Remote control, the example of battery powered appliance. Dear students, I hope you understand all these exercises. So let's start the next chapter, mixtures and solution. First of all, here you revise what is a mixture. A mixture is made up of two or more type of atoms that are not chemically combined together. Solid, liquid, and gases. So mixture can take many forms. Any combination of solid, liquid, and gases are called mixture. We have two types of mixtures, heterogeneous and homogeneous. In heterogeneous means different. You can see the different phases of the mixture easily, like fruit salad. And in homogeneous means the same. You cannot see the different phases of the mixture, like tea, juice. See, what is a solution? A solution is a special type of mixture. A solution is homogeneous mixture that combines a solute and solvent. In a solution involves one substance dissolving in another substance, which is usually a liquid, like juice, tea. How we make a solution? First of all, we require solute like salt. Then we require solvent like water, and then we mix together and then we make a solution. When we mix salt in water, then we make a solution. Salt we use as a solute, water we use as a solvent. A solution is a mixture formed when one or more solutes dissolve in a solvent. See, here is a water, that one is a sugar. So when we dissolve sugar in a water, then we make a sugar solution. I hope you understand. Now let's revise the exercises. Column A contains definition of the item and column B contains these terms. Match column A with column B. The first one is the substance which is dissolved to make a solution. It is called solute. A clear, transparent and homogeneous mixture of two or more than two things, it is called solution. A substance which can dissolve into another substance, it is called soluble. A substance in which the solute is dissolved to make a solution, it is called solvent, like water. This is exercise number A. In exercise number B, fill in the blanks. A solution is a transparent and clear mixture. A solution is a transparent and clear mixture. Solute plus solvent is equal to solution. Solute plus solvent is equal to solution. Fish can breathe in water because of oxygen gas dissolved in water. If a substance dissolves in another substance, it is called soluble. And if a substance does not dissolve in another substance, it is called insoluble. Exercise number C. The substance which is dissolved to make a solution, it is called solute. We use a solute as a substance which is dissolved to make a solution. Number 2, the substance in which the solution is dissolved to make a solution, it is called solvent, like water. Here solute, sugar and plus salt. And here solvent, water as a solvent. Number 3, a clear and transparent mixture of two or more than two things is called a solution. A clear and transparent mixture of two or more than two things, it is called a solution. If we dissolve salt in water, so we make a solution, and this solution is a clear and transparent mixture of two or more than two things. Number 4, which of the following gases is dissolved in fizzy drink? Carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is dissolved in fizzy drink. Number 5, which of the following is soluble in water? Salt is soluble in water. So dear student, I hope you understand all these exercises. So after the review, I hope you understand all the concepts and all the exercises very well. Okay, dear students, best of luck.